What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jaden. If you were with us last week for round 5 of the Thomas J. Chambers Memorial Tournament, you'll know that we are doing commentary with these last 2 rounds with myself and Mr. John Hendricks down here. How's it going, John? Welcome back.
What's up?
I know it's been
Good
a
to be
long
back.
time since we've talked. It's been an entire week since we did round 5.
Yep, not much has changed. I feel
Right.
like I haven't gotten up out of this chair in a week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I just put on the same clothes so that, people, for consistency's sake. Um, all right. Behind the curtains, we're just recording this, but I'm not going to release it for you guys for another week because the suspense. Well, I guess
Because
most
he
most
needs a
people.
vacation.
Hey, maybe I got to prepare for Mr. Classic.
Yep, that is definitely true. Because that
Gotta
belt right back there.
gotta
Yep,
defend
let's
that
shout
that
that
bad
out.
boy. Yep.
So,
I don't even know if that was picked up on the recording for people. I think it's in the shot. Should be in the frame.
hmm,
But yeah, we gotta do some prep for that. So gotta have these stocked and ready to go and give the people a little bit of suspense so that they because I'm sure people don't actually know who won this game.
yeah, I wonder if there'll be another epic, promo for Mr. Classic. From that podcast guy. You know,
another epic promo.
yeah, the whole
Oh,
Mr.
like,
Classic,
okay. Here I was expecting like
Mr.
a new
Classic.
card, like
Uh, for Andy Sale that you
right,
mentioned
yeah, no.
last week.
Right, yep. I suppose I could just do that at the beginning this week. But the sale has ended now, so you guys can't get the discounted promos. Hopefully you've already taken advantage of that last weekend when Andy was running the sale on the promos. And if you haven't, you could still go and buy the promos from your turn games, but you're going to be doing them at regular price, and who knows, all the good ones might already be taken because of people like John going through and cleaning out Andy. No, we heard last week he had to pace himself, but I don't know. Maybe if we can convince Keegan to beg for the textless son of God, then yeah, no. It's too late for that by now, right? Yeah, future. All right. Anyways, this is round 6 of the Thomas J. Chambers Memorial Tournament, which is the last round of the tournament, and we are now at the top table. Last week we saw Jay defeat Brian in a very aggressive but close game, and now John Early has made his way to the top table to take on Jay here. And interestingly, they're like I guess it doesn't surprise me that they hadn't met until this point in the tournament, but they had both been doing very well, except for the fact that John lost to me in round 1, and then Jay beat me in round 2. So, they were, I think, just kind of staggered just a little bit until John finally caught up. They are playing a pretty close to a mirror match here. They did have a few cards different. John's version he called Gandalf, and Jay's version is called Honeypot. So you can tell there's a little bit of difference there. I think the names generally apply to both, but
I guess if we're going to use those two separate names to call the two decks, who's got the better name?
oh
I feel
boy,
like Honeypot kind of tells you a little bit more about the actual deck.
maybe, yeah. I mean, so the story behind Gandalf is the white offense and the gray defense. So you got Gandalf the white and Gandalf the gray, and
Right.
that I to me that kind of seems like a little bit of low hanging fruit. It's like, oh, just going on the brigades, like, eh. I think the honeypot meaning, which if I understand correctly, is like it has to do. The pot is like pot of mana. The honey is a little bit of like I don't know, a little bit of the holy of holies, but like honey in the wilderness or in the promised land. And then I think also it has some um, what's the word I'm looking for, like personal application or like uh,
I just thought Jay named it that because it's pretty sweet when he plays Pot of Mana against you. Nah.
I don't know about that. Uh, it has some. Yeah, there's a what's the word I'm thinking of, like personal meaning. I'm gonna think of it later, and I'll like put it on the
We'll
screen
circle
somewhere.
back.
Yeah, uh, but there's like there was kind of a theme, if you want to call it that, of like the teddy bears for Thomas J. Chambers, who the Memorial Tournament was for, and like bears and honey, and I think that was part of it. I don't know. Jay put a better description of it in the Discord somewhere, so you can go dig that up and find it if you're curious. Uh,
We are lowly commentators. We are not poets.
yeah, exactly. We're just giving you the facts. That's all we're here to do today. So speaking of which, I suppose we can go ahead and start giving some facts about the gameplay here, if you're all set for that. They are getting their 8 ready, and I believe the timer has already started.
Yep. Here
And
comes the
they're
dice
rolling.
roll.
And they're rolling dice that I can't read on the video. If anyone knows what Jay rolled there, you can let me know.
First dialogue I've lost.
Looks like John rolled an 8 and he beat whatever
Yep.
Jay rolled. So,
Jay said that's the first one he's lost. So
okay. All right, and they both have a dread to start out, which is the exchange a
mirror
card.
match.
Yeah, really. John has the first like original release version, which is better, but it's also errated, so that they're the same. So they have to exchange a card from hand with the Egyptian in deck. Likely both of
just
them are
did that.
going for Pharaoh's Daughter.
He just used that to keep from having to buy a new starter deck to get it.
Maybe, yeah. It does look pretty cool, but is John still deciding who's going first here? No, I think he's choosing to go first,
think-
and they're resolving no stars on
I
either
think
side.
neither one of them had stars. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense. I don't know that there like are any star cards in either of these decks except for like delivered.
Although
I guess David
we can
could play a Meek Red Hero from reserve or something like that.
we can give props to the two deck sleeves here. We've got Jay's. I don't know if those are custom, but they look kind of like they might be custom.
Yeah, possibly. I don't see the little dragon shield symbol at the bottom, so
Yeah.
be custom from somewhere. They are pretty cool though.
Remember what
Yeah.
card you did.
And
so
then
we
you've got
can
the inconceivable over here, which is always a classic.
Yep. Princess
see who put the
Bride.
same card back to see just how much of a mirror this nonsense is.
So John is making a comment to see if they both put the same card in their deck for Dread, but they had to remember it later to see how much of a mirror the game actually was, in case you guys couldn't hear that.
Yeah. One thing I'm interested to see here as they get ready to get into the first turn is how much I know that it was mentioned that Jeremiah, and I mentioned it on the last game, was in Jay's deck but not in John's deck, and I wonder how much that might play a part here. Here goes a Denarius to
Yeah,
get
see
the
see where
Emperor.
their differences are.
Winning this game involves killing a bird hero.
I love how much fun they're having in the background.
Yeah,
here
this is
as we're
good.
trying
Like
to do
it's
commentary over this.
Which is a advantage to him.
it's the top table of a competitive
Jay
tournament.
is running Land of Moab. I am running.
Okay, they're giving us a little bit of the details on their differences here.
advantage to you in this game. Which is an advantage to me in this game, theoretically. There is something to be said for getting in early, David, if you have a harp. Jay is running Blood Avengers in his reserve. I don't know what I'm running that he's not in the reserve. Let's put it that way.
I mean, they definitely know they're being recorded, so they're giving a little bit of commentary for us themselves.
Which, in theory, we're kind of racing each other since we're both on the exact same linear game plan and we don't really care. Like, I don't actually need to go activate all my artifacts because we're both built to play through the
Yeah,
artifacts.
at this point, like I wonder if.
Are we even needed here? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I wonder if in a mirror match like this, knowing like Pot of Mana is so important, and I believe Jay might have mentioned this in when I had him on the podcast back in December. But I wonder if like so they activate their Pot of Mana. You can hold on to yours in case they find a way around in case they want to put a band together later on,
Oh,
and
sure.
then you can, drop yours down at an opportune time or whatever. Or maybe it's just so crazy in this mirror match they don't even play the line of play that ends up with restricting.
I mean,
Just
to
to
a
see
certain
how crazy it
degree,
goes.
they don't need to because they know that their opponent is already built around it. So like they only have a very limited number of characters that actually would be in battle at the same time.
It
So
is interesting to see that there is an evil character down on John's side, so he will have early evil character presence.
that's true.
Versus, the last game where Jay was so quick on the offense that he kind of outpaced his defense early on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jay did mention that part of the determining who's going to go first here is going to be based on, who's gonna win here is based on who's going to be able to get rid of their opposing Emperor Nero, which is kind of funny. I mean, it shows just how, like what John was saying, like how linear their game plan is, and they're shortcutting a lot of things here. So Wilderness is going to Tribal Elders. Pharaoh's Daughter is going to Moses. Temple Dedication went to Holy of Holies. And there's a storehouse on the table as well. So, yeah, they're definitely not making things easy for us here.
You said that was a storehouse on the table?
Yep, so it's the New Israel's Rebellion storehouse at the bottom there with the Wilderness.
Yeah, I mentioned in the last video that I was kind of out of pocket on this because I didn't go to the tournament, see the deck in person, and I haven't seen it put out on a table yet.
Right.
And this is 90-0 redemption speed here.
I heard you touched some cardboard the other day, or I saw a picture of it.
I did touch some cardboard the other day. You know what I spent 5 hours doing?
Sorting.
With my cards. Literally sorting. You remember a while back I posted that I invited Brad over to our house and we opened 4 boxes, or it might have been
Oh, sure.
it was either 4 or 5 boxes of Israel's Rebellion that had roots. And I had all those cards just stuck in random spots. I hadn't sorted them out. So I spent all that time. I watched some movies with Keegan and sorted them out. And then, of course, the first deck that I actually touched was him asking to change his deck from Angels and Demon Thieves to Disciples and Demon Thieves. So I still have not built and touched a recent deck for me or tweaked anything.
Well, that's fair, I suppose. I
guess I'll just build Honeypot.
There you go. Just take a list. Which one are you going to take, though? That's the question. I should mention here, we did actually see a band happen there, which is pretty exciting for this matchup. So John attacked with Moses, played Inhabitants driven out, banded to Tribal Others, got a draw 2, and Jay had no block for him. So John is up 1-0 and takes...
Oh, he got the Dread, but that also opens up into a potential... So Jay now has no souls, and there's not a lot of souls on the board right now, so...
Yeah, it's true. Could do some soul hide here.
It'll be interesting to see how much of that element might play in here.
It's amazing. It's so good.
So John decides in his discard phase to do the crowd's choice to Glory Tabernacle just to get that set up as early as possible there. Try to thin the deck a little bit, and I think get down to 8 cards maybe.
Glory and Crowd's Choice in the same Dom lineup. Did you ever think you'd see something like that?
You see the day. Yep, we're here.
Although for all intents and purposes, if this is the boogeyman, the bad juju deck of the meta, this is far more balanced of it than Love at First Sight or Widow stuff.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, it takes some setup, plus strategically you can kind of throw enough kinks in the armor to where you can hard remove a key piece.
Yeah. All right, so Egypt to Tabernacle, Eliezer, now a CBN pot, and Pharaoh's Daughter is good to go to Moses.
Does the wording on a laser, does it reach across the table? Does it make
I believe it is
both
your
players?
tabernacle artifacts.
Okay.
This card and let's see, it's this card and tabernacle artifacts that you control, maybe, or is it just this card and tabernacle artifacts? It's a good
I don't
question.
know.
I don't have a way to. I can look it up on my phone here.
I will say that card was not relevant at the time that I came in, so I have not seen it much, if at all.
Evil or good? Good. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of relevant in some decks. All right, no, this hero and tabernacle artifacts cannot be negated, so it does reach across. It does
That's
apply
very
for both
interesting.
players. Yep.
And Jay is using, honestly, my favorite card in the game as far as the cards that got an upgrade with the fundraiser,
Oh yeah.
the crowd's choice. I think it honestly might be one of my favorite arts in the entire game.
Wow.
The more zoomed in version of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool.
I really like it. I really like kind of its. If you were sharing it with a non-redemption player, I think it's one of those cards that it'd be really cool to see.
Sure. What did he crowd's choice for? Did you see? I was distracted by my phone.
I did not. We were talking, and he was going way too fast. We were talking about Jay doing that, so
Yep. I did see that he Mosesed for inhabitants driven out. John blocked with entrapping Pharisees, revealed to try to capture Moses, and we got a covenant with David out of Jay's hand instead. And then David's harp got a trigger, so Jay got to draw one. And then
Did he have-
John now trying to take out Jay.
did he have the
Take
Pharaoh's
Moses.
daughter? I wonder if he.
He had the Pharaoh's daughter already, so yeah, I guess I'm not sure. Was there? Okay, wow, early Moses block. That's pretty good for John there. Yeah, plot to kill and self-destruction, then to back it up.
Token.
I'm a little bit surprised that Jay did not banish the temple dedication there for the protection after he played it in battle.
Keep storehouse. You don't have your shoulder down, right?
John did find his lost souls. That became pretty relevant. That he is able to generate some tokens there, which I don't know if he actually was supposed to make two there. I think he was just supposed to make one, but I'm not sure exactly. I know on the opening hand it only counts itself. I think if you draw it later, it does count others. It's just because in the opening hand they're not put in play by the time the lost soul gets to activate.
6 in your hand there, buddy?
Yeah, they're all put in play at the same time and just waiting to activate. Kind of makes it weird.
Right, yeah. There's an argument that could be made that because of that it shouldn't activate itself, but that's just how it works for all other lost souls that they've put in play. So it's, yeah, a little strange. I don't know if they're going to change the way that works at all. So we got a shield down on John's side.
TC for turn.
I mean, like, right now, I think things are coming up well for John. Like, that's...
Yeah, it definitely feels like the opposite of the last game, to where everything came out just. This is what Jay wanted to see in that opening hand, and now it's like John's got enough resistance, enough counters to things,
Yeah.
and he has enough of a rescue presence here to where he's going to threaten Jay, who last game, he struggled to find defense until the mid-game period. They never really got to the late game, so he found it there in the mid-game, but he doesn't have defense here on the board, so...
Yeah. Alright, so John drops a Lost Child Found, bounces his Wilderness so he can get another trigger on that to search for an Exodus hero. And then he bounces Entrapping Pharisees and Jay's Eliezer. Bouncing Jay's Eliezer doesn't really do anything, so I'm a little curious why he did that. It turns his own Tabernacle artifacts up. He could have the option to make his own CBN.
I guess now he could potentially negate the pot of mana there in battle if he wanted, right?
Well,
Or no, that'd
no,
have to be
because
next turn for Jay.
right, and Jay can
So
just put down a laser before reactivating Pot of Mana.
yeah, it sounded like John said, "Oops, I misplayed," or "That's a misplay," or something like that
Yeah, I think
around
he
the time that he
was
played that. So
right.
I wonder what he was planning on targeting.
He did grab his Grumbled initially, thinking that maybe he could bounce that with Lost Child Found, and that might have been what he was hoping for. But yeah, you can't target Lost Souls with the ability on Lost Child Found.
Yeah, because you can't technically bounce them anyway because they can never be in hand.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think he was thinking it would just like default to, okay, going back into play, you get another trigger. But yeah, that's not the way it works. So John ended up going in with Chosen Warriors. Jay blocked with Saul and got it unsuccessful. But John had the Angel of the Lord to stop that from happening. Maybe the unsuccessful can get a block later on, but John got another one, or he got another rescue there. It's up to 2. And triggering Lost Souls, make some more tokens.
So he's at 2 without using any of the dominance. So
Right, yeah.
and here he goes asking for Dom to play the Son of God. So that's going to get rid of what was that Wanderer
Yep.
there. He doesn't want to give up one of his souls there.
Alright, so Nero down and then a Denarius active, and I think Jay was about to just discard it right away. I think he is just failing the search. But John is going to respond with a Woes to negate it before he has a chance to discard it, which is I think that seems like the right play to me with John kind of in the position that he's in. He's very much in the driver's seat right now, and anything he can do to keep Jay from catching up is definitely going to be in his to his advantage here, I guess. So. Yeah, you can see that Jay doesn't even make a rescue here. He's got no good options. I think I see an Angel of the Lord in Jay's hand, but obviously it's not going to get him very far against Nero.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point here is there's a lot of, I guess, newer players or kind of up-and-coming players that maybe don't understand the value of skipping a rescue, especially when we're coming out of that hyper-aggressive, few years where you couldn't possibly have a block that you couldn't get, or like your chump blocks had to go off and you had to rescue every turn
Right.
to have yourself in the best position.
Yeah.
But some of the players, and I know like you see it on some of your videos and hear UCJ do it, when it's just not advantageous for you to rescue, sometimes you, as much as it hurts, it's better to hold on to those resources and let them build up versus letting the opponent force you to burn something.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
you, especially with this offense, being limited on heroes, just losing a body hurts.
Yeah. And, that's mostly, I would say that's when you know that you're not going to get a rescue. Like, if your opponent doesn't have an evil character down and you're just not attacking because you don't have any enhancements for that hero, I think, in some cases you will still want to attack because there's a chance they just won't have a way to block. But here, Jay knows that it's not even worth it to push someone in battle and make John do something because he wants to save resources. So we've got a number of things that have happened here. John had an upkeep storehouse trigger. He grabbed a Royal Parade, and he activated David's Harp to take Magnificat from reserve. I don't know what he put his Woes target on, but I assume he just kept it on Denarius.
Yeah, that'd be the smart move, I think, looking at the board.
Yep. And then John activates his own Pot of Mana, which cannot be negated. I don't know if they recognize that or not, but
we were talking about it early on.
Yeah.
And here they are, both activated.
Yeah, Mirror Pot.
Wait, is it negated? Because didn't Jay put down Eliezer again? Right.
Yeah, so neither of their pots can be negated right now.
So
And
that pushes through. Yep.
That is good for Jay here. So he goes Deceiver into an Entrapping Pharisees, which, while John has Storehouse out, is going to be in pretty much an auto block here. John's not going to be able to negate the capture or instead the capture of
Yeah.
Moses there.
Which we didn't see John, or I'm sorry, we didn't see Jay in the, round 5 that you did last week. Last week, we
Yep.
didn't see Storehouse, and we see John have it down, and now it, affects the game here a little bit. Do you know if Jay was running Storehouse?
I think that might have been one of their differences. Should just mention that card that John drew at the end there was kind of a late Wilderness of Sinai trigger. I probably would have argued against that if I was Jay, but you let him take it there after the block. I mean, that's kind of how it goes sometimes when people are playing quickly, and I guess John could have made an argument that he still could have triggered it before Jay blocked because he just kind of went right into battle. But I think Storehouse was either something that Jay did not play, or we don't see it yet, of course, and that could be for a reason. I mean, he knows that he's got trappers.
How did you go get David? Land of Moab? I've got Shield trigger.
Yeah, so here we can kind of see the fast play again, sort of like needing to slow it down so that triggers can happen. So Land of Moab went for David, and then David's Harp went for Magnificat, I believe. So John has a couple of shield triggers. Thunderdeck Lost Souls.
Speaking of last turn, maybe he only played the Eliezer from his hand that had been bounced or whatever. But I thought Jay searched, and John didn't put anything up with Sheol.
Yeah, he did technically do the search with Denarius. I think John was focused on whether or not he was going to woes.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yep.
Which, even if you woes it, technically the search did happen. So he could have gotten that there. And he's done 3 this turn, so that would have him soulless on the board had he done that. Although also then you probably have one less trigger that Jay does.
Yeah.
In that situation, playing around it a bit.
Right, yeah. I mean, if John had done it last turn, Jay definitely would have been thinking about it this turn. Here we get a good glance at Jay's hand. Royal Parade, Philosophy, Plot to Kill, Lying Prophet, Unsuccessful, looks like a Self-Destruction, Angel of the Lord, Fear of Man, Lost Child Found, and Son of God. Lots of defense. I think he gets a draw 3. Yeah, the 3 brigades on Royal Parade. And I'm curious what Jay does here. He can David's Harp.
Jay's going to get the prosperity. Every game I watch of John, he gets prosperity off. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jay doesn't have to worry about the soul drought now, at least. So it looks like John's activating his shepherds before prosperity. We'll see if he actually does that or not.
The consistency souls from the new starter decks are awesome for the game.
Yeah, I think they're pretty cool.
I mean, if you're one of those players that's trying to build a lot of different decks, then you've got your good souls in your good deck, and then you're trying to build kind of mid-range decks after that.
Right.
Those are good souls to just plug in.
Yeah.
And they're always good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like their flexibility of tucking a multi-brigade card to hide it from Matthew or something like that.
Yeah, or if you get a star card in your hand that you really want to use later, you can put it in to increase your chances of drawing it, organically or naturally.
Yep. Okay, so what happened here was Jay used the David's Harp trigger to negate Sheol, so that's what brought the Lost Souls back out. Jay had initiative and plays Lost Child Found to attempt to bounce Lying Prophet.
No, there's no reason to make bounce your courtyard right now. Yeah,
I think, that was...
Here comes Philosophy. Man, it's so good.
Right, yeah.
And this is where the not having the...
So we're negated there.
Hand protection, kind of...
Yeah, I think...
I mean, it's definitely a two-way, like,
Yeah.
Sometimes you definitely want it, and then sometimes you're like, man, I wish I didn't have it.
Should bounce your story
And then
out.
sometimes it, you
But out philosophy or philosophy.
different scenarios in the game right now make that such a complex decision to whether you want it or you don't.
Yep.
Negate your philosophy.
That doesn't
Yeah,
work
so
in that set. You have to negate lost child found with
I think, okay, so yeah, so John is back in special initiative now, so he has to negate lost child found because philosophy is negating philosophy, so Jay still has the dominance in hand. So John is trying to figure out which route to go here.
I'm just trying to find a way to play that dominant before it's gone.
Right, yeah. Jay is
Jay, I
is,
mean,
is itching for an opportunity to make sure that his son of God is protected here.
But as long as these enhancements chain themselves, he's got to come out on the winning side.
Right,
And it's
yep.
just back and forth. Finally, I'll angel you.
Yeah,
But
so that
because
was
he
a
angeled
good
him-
battle.
You forced me to use all my defense, so, relatively fair trade there.
Because he angeled him, shouldn't the Son of God hit the discard?
No, so the philosophy. So
Because
John,
interrupt and bounce, and then it got negated.
yeah, interrupt bounce. Philosophy negated philosophy, or negated that. Philosophy negated philosophy, but then John had to go back and negate the inhabitant or the lost child found that was doing the bouncing, and so John could only negate that. He wasn't able to go back and negate the philosophy.
I gotcha. That was rapid fire battle right there.
Yeah,
That was pretty intense for these decks.
Yeah, hopefully, if you need to while you're watching at home, just pause the video, go back and kind of try to figure out what was going on there. Hopefully, we've explained it well enough. But yeah, it's something where if you're not as familiar with the cards, you're definitely going to be.
Make it simple.
It's a little bit confusing. So we've got Son of God coming down again on John's side, and after a second coming play, and he does pick up the number 4, I believe, here.
So that is 4-2, or is it 4-3?
I want to say it's 4-1. I think that's the first one that Jay rescued.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at the bottom of the screen on the 2 play mats. It looks like there's 3 stacked up.
Yeah, I think that's John's stack, and I think there's one more hiding under there. And then Jay's just got the dread there. So John just has to get through one more time here, but his storehouse is going to make things tricky for him, I think. He does say You'll Remain now, though, so I guess he can get around trappers in that way. But Jay had a mitt full of defense in his hand last time we saw it.
And he hasn't had to use a bunch of it yet.
Right.
Which is interesting watching these games back, and like I just asked about the soul count there, because if it's 4-1, knowing what we know about this game, there's definitely some kind of momentum shift that is forthcoming. It would be interesting to try to pinpoint what that is and what swings the tide from one side of the board to the other.
Right. Yeah, so here it's interesting. Okay, so John went in with David. He failed the search with David, but he used the tabernacle to exchange his virgin birth with philosophy in his discard pile. Jay's doing Lying Prophet and targeting David for discard, so now he has special initiative. Or John's in special initiative. And John's wondering here if the David's Harp will be able to target Lying Prophet after Lying Prophet resolves, but since David's Harp would be gone, then it would not get to resolve here, so you wouldn't be able to negate Lying Prophet after the fact.
I rescued David. He's blocking Lying Prophet, attempting to discard by David.
So, like, it has to be on the board to resolve, similar to Territory Class. And so once it's leaving the table here, it wouldn't be in play to target.
Yeah, because it's an optional trigger.
Triggers have to be in play.
Yeah.
Of course, Jay's trying to answer here now instead of the judge.
Jay's got a habit of that. Calm down. Calm down, young buck. We know what you think.
So John has a few options here, but actually it might just be the one. I think Royal Parade is his only way because he has to interrupt Lying Prophet's ability. And I'm not sure what all he has that interrupts the battle other than that. Maybe Inhabitants Driven Out does. Philosophy only negates enhancements, though. So I think what he's debating here is whether he plays the Royal Parade or he lets David go and triggers You Will Remain, which looks like that's what he's opting for here.
Is that the decision that you, as an astute, solid player, would do?
I don't think so. I think I go for the Royal Parade, but I don't remember exactly what Jay has in hand here. Because using You Will Remain this way gives Jay initiative.
Yeah, and it just bit you in the butt.
Right, yeah. Not having that You Will Remain now means that unsuccessful is going to be good. Which John did know that he had unsuccessful.
Yeah.
I guess he technically knew a lot of the defense, but yeah.
It seems like using Royal Parade there to force Jay to have an answer to play, and then potentially, depending on that answer, still have the You Will Remain as a secondary option.
Yeah, because I think John knows that Jay has negates. I guess the problem with playing Royal Parade is that it... I guess it wouldn't have worked that way either, because playing Royal Parade puts Jay in special initiative. So if he negates Royal Parade, then John is back into that same situation of having to negate Lying Prophet, which he just didn't have the options for. So I think maybe he did play it right here, where doing the You Will Remain first and kind of making Jay make the correct play, I guess, of playing unsuccessful there. Jay might have thought to play something else, like maybe could have gotten more value, but he needed the guaranteed unsuccessful block there. But now this does put John in a pretty tough spot because he doesn't have You Will Remain anymore, and thus he's out of ways to deal with entrapping Pharisees from what we can see on the board here. We've got an Asaph and a Saul coming down from John. I think Asaph is one of those cards that was different. That might be the Jeremiah slot from Jay's deck. And Chosen Warriors coming in for Jay, taking Plague from reserve. Shield trigger under Dex Prosperity.
7-3, you grab Plague.
Yep.
I do have to say that in this scenario, it's kind of interesting, the dynamic. Like I guess the joke out there for Jay is that he can easily be put on tilt when he's playing in a high pressure situation against another top player. But he's doing well now. Everything seems to be metered and full of thought versus panicking because he's down 4-1 or whatever the score is.
Yeah. So, okay, so Jay has Chosen Warriors. He's searched for Plague. Saul of Tarsus coming from the block. I think he took the draw too. And because it's mutual, Jay has initiative to play Plague. And John drops the Philosophy that he had gotten back with Tabernacle last turn. And yep, there we see the Storehouse in Jay's deck that he is not putting down because of Trappers.
And that's the smart play there. I guess especially if these guys had talked and he knew about the defense in the mirror match and whatnot. And of course, you knew which target it was going to be there.
Right.
I'm 6'5". I played the last card.
So we'll see if Jay is able to negate. Ooh, okay.
Ooh.
Interesting. So John's hand is protected. Is he about to shuffle something?
It looks like he is shuffling.
So
and
interesting.
I don't see woes down for Jay.
Yeah, I think this is a misplay here.
And I wonder
doesn't
if this
really
misplay
matter.
cost Jay Well, I mean, does it cost John the game?
Uh,
Depending on
John doesn't have that
what?
many cards left in his deck, so I can't imagine it changes his
Yeah.
hand too drastically. But yeah, there could be something that he needed for this battle that he doesn't get back anymore. I think Jay is kind of just fishing for a way to negate philosophy and get his Son of God back, which, I mean, Jay,
Oh,
that's a little
he's
bit
got
of
a
a misplay from
consistency
Jay.
soul there. What is
Yeah,
that, Shepherds?
yep. Under next card to draw one. I think, yeah, Jay probably should have. I think that was a little bit of a misplay on Jay's part, not playing the Son of God before battle, because he knew
Yeah.
that
Especially when it
philosophy.
had been targeted the turn before.
Yeah, yeah. I think he maybe just forgot that philosophy came back with Tabernacle. So one other, yeah. So John did get all of the cards left in his deck, so it actually helped John
So it
out in this case.
didn't matter.
Yeah. Magnificat coming down to reserve Saul, and the
So
philosophy
he doesn't
sticks.
get the Son of God back.
Yep. So
Okay.
Jay is now at 2. Now
There's
he gets
the
the Son of
second
God back
coming.
that way. He gets
And
his
he'll
his
get
one
the 3.
activation. Yep. So the interesting
Oh.
thing with sorry, you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, ironic that he took Lost Souls, since that's what ruined his soul
Yeah.
drop that he could have strung
Right.
along for a turn or two.
Yeah, they had some vengeance there. Interesting thing with Chosen Warriors in the mirror match is, even though, well, I guess both Moseses are gone at this point, but Chosen Warriors just says add a wilderness hero to battle. Doesn't have to be your own. So if John had taken out the Chosen Warriors in the last battle, Jay could have added like his John's tribal elders. Didn't end up coming into play in this case, but
Blood Avenger here.
yeah, this is kind of the
I know your deck is good as
the matchup of, or like the character matchup that I think
thought about doing.
makes John upset, and
I know I did.
I mean, it doesn't quite make sense, but it's, yeah.
Yeah. Blood Avenger.
So Blood Avenger, if defeated, you get to discard an opponent's hero,
So we got a resolution.
and
And if you
now
die by the
they're
numbers,
bad because you can't.
right. So yeah, if you die by the numbers, you're in battle resolution, and you can't use an add the battle ability.
Yeah.
So the Chosen
but you can
Warriors is
discard,
defeated. Right. Yeah.
which makes
Why not?
yeah. I can see the confusion there.
Right. And then that's what they're asking about here. And like, yeah, I agree that it doesn't quite seem intuitive, but like it makes sense that there are certain abilities that you can't use during battle resolution, but it maybe should just be blanketed, but then it just doesn't work the way
Yeah.
that, like, I don't know. Yeah.
There's always
So-
scenarios with card interactions that come out in a new
I don't agree with
set.
that ruling at all. If
That-
Blood Avengers can trigger the scenario, Chosen Warriors should absolutely.
You know, like two cards interacting with each other in a way opposite from the standard thinking based on previous cards.
Yeah.
It's like when LOC came out with, what is it, Spears? Is that the one that negates the last card that left battle?
You play second.
Right. Yeah. Negate.
And it could,
decrease, yeah.
yeah, it could negate my deceiver that's inside of my deck that's protected by Storehouse, and I never really liked that. That my house is protected. This guy is in my house, and you come in my house to get him. Like, I get that he's not protected, but he is in a protected place.
Yeah.
Like it's hard for you to
about where he
reason to
was,
me.
man.
Why Blood Avengers
Yeah,
can
it's
trigger
hard
resolution
for you to
and
reason to
Chosen
me
Warriors can't.
that you should be able to go into my protected deck, pull him out, then negate him.
Sure.
I'm just
We get to come back to this battle. We get to come back to our battle.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying. So I definitely get the frustration when you get some of those kind of wonky interactions in a new set.
Right. Yeah, John, looks like John was asking for the receipts here, making sure that that was in fact the official ruling, and that yeah, we saw Joe pulling up the Discord.
Blood Avenger discarding Chosen
And he definitely did state that he did not agree with it. So
Yeah,
for what it's worth, John does not agree with the ruling.
Yep, I don't know if they're gonna address that. As far as I know, nothing has changed on that yet.
Yeah.
But you can use the triggered ability to discard a character during battle. You can't use the triggered ability to add a character during battle
Yeah, because if you undo the where you can add to battle,
or during battle
well,
resolution. Sorry.
like that, then that means that something like, um, what is it? The artifact,
You did look
Matthew's
at me.
Begats.
Look at my reserve.
It doesn't work if you die by the numbers. So technically, if you die by the numbers, then if they change that ruling, then you might end up making that card stronger to where you die by the numbers, you can still add to battle.
Right.
Because if battle resolution is not a final state of the battle,
Yeah.
then you can undo it somehow. That it kind of affects other card rulings. So I don't know what they really can do without just kind of reinventing the way that battle resolution happens and occurs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Exchange Virgin Birth to discard pile.
So David with Harp is going in. David is meek at this point, and getting a Tabernacle trigger to get Magnificat back from discard pile, exchanging Virgin
Still didn't
Birth.
play your storehouse?
Nope.
And John's commenting on how Jay did not play his storehouse still, so his hand is not protected, so he can discard two instead with entrapping Pharisees.
Is there a reason that you see that he has not gone in with Jeremiah? With John having limited cards, no deck left, and you're tossing the next, you're forcing potentially him to burn 2 cards per battle.
Well, if Jay doesn't have, I don't think he has that many teal and green options.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked in depth at the deck list since I did
So,
that
like-
podcast forever ago with him.
Yeah, so like attacking with Jeremiah probably just gets trappers, and then even if he does have one thing, which I didn't quite catch it in his hand if he had something to discard for that, but it would just be a stalemate. I'm a little surprised that John just gave it up there. I mean, like, I maybe he was saving time, but he still had a Sheol, so like he can, like trappers to make Jay use something, and then
Terrifying Beast
yeah.
doesn't.
No, it matters.
That would force him to discard something too, but
Right, yeah, Terrifying Beast, Band of Nero. Seems like a good
So-
option.
Still have Royal Break.
Oh, sorry, I
pot
can't
of-
band. Yeah.
Oh, I know it.
Pot of Mana is active. Why have what's the reason that Nero hasn't entered battle in this scenario?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think he probably just
Like
assumed
I don't
that.
think
enough
either one of
interrupts.
them's used Nero yet, have they?
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's just that feels odd to me because we were talking about previously how it kind of buffed those protected from dominance and lone heroes, and Pot of Mana is CBN. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's CBN under David. There is his priest making it CBN, so
Right.
just feels odd.
I know, because so we see in John's hand there, he's got interrupts, and then the regardless of protection, plague of frogs there, so that gets around Nero. But yeah, it does limit his options. I think I can see why Jay hasn't blocked that way yet. I don't know why John didn't block with Nero last turn. I guess David's Harp can just negate Nero after the block. So that's
Yeah.
so one thing to note here. So John used, I believe, his own 3 woes to negate his own storehouse, so that he could discard something to entrap the Pharisees.
Pro plays right there.
Yeah. So Magnificat, try to reserve trappers, plot to kill to negate and discard it. Which, yeah, Magnificat should be discarded at this point.
This is putting me in SI.
So yeah, we're getting a good enhancement battle going back and forth here.
Yeah.
So
There's been a couple of really good battles where there's multiple enhancements chaining together.
wow, this is crazy. Okay, so we might have to
Might have to pause.
Maybe we should
Yeah.
just pause it here and.
So that might.
Okay, so Magnificat to reserve trappers. Plot to kill is played in special initiative, so Magnificat should be discarded right now. It's back to John's initiative. He played Plague of Frogs to attempt to shuffle. Is it shuffle or is it bounce? I don't know. The old one was shuffle.
I think it's still. I might be wrong. Maybe they changed it to.
I think it might be
Maybe
bounce.
they changed it
I'm
to
not
bounce,
sure.
and then they kept the regardless of protect.
Yeah, whatever it is. Trying to remove trappers from battle. Jay plays self-destruction in special initiative, interrupt the battle, and try to discard all good cards in battle. John then has special initiative with steady till sunset, so he negates self-destruction, which puts Plague of Frogs back into effect.
An active status, yeah.
Yep, and so now Jay has special initiative to negate Plague of Frogs, which he does with Stricken to just negate a good card. So then,
And then I can't tell what that top enhancement is there on John's side.
yeah, so then that's inhabitants driven out.
Okay.
So that's I think it reserves all evil characters in battle. Either way, so yeah, John is trying to remove Entrapment Pharisees again from battle, putting Jay back in special initiative. Jay lands a Fear of Man to negate a good card this turn. So like it's all coming down to this battle. It's all coming out here. So right now
it is 4-4 going into this. So this is as intense as you can get in a game state against top table at a highly competitive tournament with, I don't know, what was it, like 25 players for Type 1?
Yeah, it was, I think we got up to 30, did we? No.
Oh, it might have been 30.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and a lot of good competitive players too. So I think they're now in the adding up the numbers situation, which I think, okay, and then Jay's using a rest, or Fear of Man to take a rest in Philippi.
I got parade.
Okay, so John still
Royal
has
Parade at the end.
Royal Parade, and he shields. Okay, yeah, yeah. So John just has to shield in a Emperor, or Jay just has to shield in an Emperor Nero. It would have been helpful for recording purposes if they had actually played this out here, but they're both too.
So they're acknowledging that
it.
he doesn't have a block next turn, or no?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, like
because Jay's attacking here and he's giving up the block to Jay.
Yeah.
So then he's assuming that when Jay blocks, he doesn't have anything to stop him. So they're agreeing to shake it out and call it game.
Yeah, I think that's what happened here. Because so John only has a rest in Philippi and Deceiver left. I'm assuming Deceiver doesn't go to anything, and then he's just assuming Jay has enough good enhancements to get through, Terrifying Beast or Trappers plus Sheol and Nero.
It feels like John's deck is missing one more chump block.
Well, he doesn't have the Blood Avenger, so that was
Yeah.
that was the one thing he mentioned at the beginning of the game that definitely
And Jay had
hindered him
the
a little bit.
unsuccessful. He was able to get off
Yep.
as well. So
Yeah, I think
it
John.
seems like the one difference that stands out really is that John wasn't able to match one for one with the chump blocks.
Yeah, and Jay was able to push with David enough where even the chump blocks might not have been enough because they're not going to they're not going to chump well against David because of the initiative there. So basically at the end of this battle, Jay's indicating he's activating his shield. He just has to add Emperor Nero. He gets the block there because John's all out of enhancements. And then they're just assuming that Jay figures out a way to rescue a lost soul, which is a little... I don't know. I think they should have played it out. There's always a possibility that Jay makes a mistake. It's a little bit slim here, I think, but
We can say that was not right.
And see, Jay would have been able to do.
Okay, I bet you can pinpoint why you lost the game.
So he originally blocked with Line
I didn't
Prophet.
activate Holy Bullets.
Well, no, it's about the 5 blocks before that you could have avoided, but but just not putting that down.
Who was
You
the
got one block.
Oh, it's just one?
You got one block.
It felt like it was
the evil character that was on that last battle?
What it was I couldn't
Was
grab
Lying
enough
Prophet,
resources
right?
early enough. You got one block.
The evil character in that last battle was Entrapping Pharisees.
You didn't have enough
Okay.
at that point when I still had Chosen Warriors.
And so that would have been an auto block had he not used the woes on his own.
Absolutely.
On his
You
own.
were also the beneficiary of two very,
Storehouse.
very tight rulings.
Yeah, the storehouse made a big
The harp and the
difference.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if with the new targeting rules had he negated his shield
What?
going into that battle, but then that would have opened him up for the auto block of
No, not a
entrapping.
But of
So-
mine,
Yeah, and I think his woes was evil.
I think the harp rule is
Which
I don't
were you guys
love
playing
that,
at this
but I think
point?
the
Were
harp
you
rule-
playing
I don't think that blood of
officially under the new targeting rules? Because this was
Yeah.
on the second, and I know
It
that
doesn't matter that I'm
it was
upset.
announced
There's
around that
other people
time.
agree that
Yeah, I think they were in effect at this time.
at a very high level.
Because we
sure,
saw
I maybe understand
Jade
it. You
negate
cannot
shield
explain
with
that
David's
to
harp.
Someone who is not you, me, etc.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't explain that to anyone.
Yeah, so they're talking about the different lines that they could have had. Specifically, I think that John could have had.
My problem is
Were
that it's different.
they're talking about the rulings, and then also the storehouse was a big factor, and the Holy of Holies was a big factor where he didn't activate Holy of Holies on the turn that he attacked with Chosen Warriors, and he could have, if he had, then he would have prevented Blood Avenger.
And because it's a mirror
Yeah.
match, and Jay's goldfish,
And I will.
times, and I have only goldfish 20, Jay beat me.
John's making excuses over here. On
Well, I mean,
He's got a
fair
point, though.
excuses.
Yeah.
But I,
You know, he builds a deck and
had
then
no-
like touches it at the tournament.
Yeah.
my hand
And he
was
makes fun of me
concealed
for
the
building
rest
it
of
at the
the
tournament and not
literally had to
testing it
push a hero,
beforehand.
and
We're
then-
both
Yeah.
doing the same thing. We're not testing it beforehand.
Right, yeah.
Right, or interrupt me.
Yeah, the
But I
varies.
do think. You can go ahead.
Yeah, but we're both attacking
you-
David and getting
Okay,
initiative every
fine.
time.
I was just gonna say it is really cool to see that Jay was down 4-1 in this game, and even with kind
Well,
of
I mean,
we mentioned that he wasn't
making
making any misplays, and then there was I forget what it was, but there was something he did that was kind of like a misplay,
Yeah, he didn't play
but he
Son
didn't
of
let
God
it
before the
snowball.
philosophy.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
But he didn't let that snowball into affecting the rest of the game at that point. He still made calculated moves and just one smart decision after another, one good line of play after another, pulled himself out of a 4-1 hole
Yeah.
against a really good player, like a legendary player in the game,
Yeah.
Mr. John Early III. But on top of this, he won coming back from 4-1, and his Son of God was discarded.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty cool to see, especially for what this tournament was, what it was for, and seeing Jay be able to win it the way that he did right there in that last match.
Yeah.
I mean, because had this gone the opposite way and Jay was up 4-1, and he allowed John to come back and beat him, we would have been giving him rib shots over, hey, how did you let that happen?
Yep.
And I guess I'm gonna give him his flowers here for him to stay, poised in this game and be able to pull that out. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it kind of just shows the other aspects of this deck, where like Jay didn't have a whole. I mean, it's kind of it's really more of a mid-range like control deck, and the fact that Jay didn't really have any blocks early, and John was able to get to an early start, and then we got a Gabriel on screen. Cool. And then the fact that Jay was kind of able to stabilize once he got the rest of his defense, really shows the resilience of the deck, I think. It is also somewhat matchup dependent, though, where I think in a different matchup, like John's offense isn't necessarily built for, or like I guess both of their offenses aren't necessarily built for those like kind of guaranteed like dominant rescues like you see in a lot of the GOC good stuff offenses. So against a different offense, Jay might not have been able to recover there, but with this particular style of deck where it is a little bit of attrition or kind of a resource war, then Jay was Jay was able to kind of hold off just long enough to stabilize there and yeah, come back for like that 4-1, which you mentioned.
Yeah. I think another thing to note is kind of what was my initial thought on the deck when I saw the deck list shared and Jay had 8 heroes.
Mm,
I
yep.
mean, we're down to the end of the game, and John didn't have a lot of good rescue options left because he had been playing that attrition. I mean, what was his last rescue? Was that with Pharaoh's daughter?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're rescuing with her, that means you're firmly between slim and none options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That actually it makes me wonder what happened to his ASAF at the end there. Um, it must have
it
gotten
was
hit with something.
it was it was hard to tell. Like,
Oh,
that
pretension,
it's
I
sitting
think
on the
is what it
board.
was. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think on Jay's. Uh,
which pretension
yeah.
is that
So right here.
Was John running pretension? I would assume he was, but maybe not because I never saw
Um,
it played and he got through his deck.
yeah, he might have had it in reserve or something. I think that might have been one of the other cards, if I remember correctly, that was a distinction between them. So it was either not in his deck at all or it was in his reserve, I think. But yeah, I think yeah. So tribal elders and Asaph got hit by pretension here, which that's also big because Asaph would have almost guaranteed that last rescue, I think, because you got Royal Parade and you've got Magnificat and I don't know where
And
they're. I think
so,
I think those were the only two involving music, but having two CBN battle winners would have made it so that Jay's negates were no good.
so in this particular game, it would have been better on John's side to hold your better rescue option there at the end in hand
Oh, sure, yeah, keep
because
Asaph
yeah.
protected, yeah.
Because I mean there was a what 4 cards left in his hand at least that he never used the rest of the game, and had
Mm-hmm.
he not telegraphed that this was my best rescue out of the 4 heroes sitting on my board,
Yeah,
one of them being Pharaoh's daughter, that is not really somebody you're going to rescue with,
right.
intentionally.
Yeah,
But
unless you have to.
yeah, I mean, and granted that when he did go in with her, he had all the resources in his deck to, or in his
Yeah,
hand from his deck. Like a lot of the power level of his deck, as far as enhancements go, were able to be played on her in that last battle. But Jay just had the one extra answer,
yep,
having that
yeah,
shield be able to just pop and add.
yeah. And that was the other thing with Asaph too, is that if John does have Asaph there, then he gets a Tabernacle trigger as well, and so he can go and get a philosophy back, which would have made a big difference. So yeah, definitely some an interesting uh, or a very impactful, I should say, line of play. They're getting the pretension. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I think maybe the Lost Child found that John said that he misplayed. I think that kind of came back to bite him there too. Where if he had that at a different time where he was able to bounce his storehouse or um, use it at the end there to bounce his wilderness of Sinai so that he could go back and get tribal elders or something from his reserve, have a little bit bigger numbers. Um, that might have made the difference there, but yeah, definitely a lot of things that had to go in Jay's favor from a ruling standpoint, from a gameplay like lines of play standpoint that weren't necessarily wrong, but just I guess they ended up being wrong um, for John to make there. And so yeah, that very very cool game. Glad to finally get this out for everybody to see this deck kind of at its peak. It's early in its development and its publicity, I guess. But
yeah.
this is it's being played by two very good players. So
Worth noting too is that Jay never had to use his "You Will Remain," so he still had that as an option on his the
mm,
next rescue. So I mean, it just ended up being, even though I know that I don't know how many heroes John was running in his, but he got whittled down there at the end. It seemed like Jay still had a pretty good presence at the end for rescuing, and I don't know what enhancements he had to back it up, but he at least had the ability to, answer a chump block with or answer a battle winner with "You will remain,"
Yeah, that's true.
which sometimes just being able to add somebody after they've burned their resources just enough to walk right in.
Right. Yeah, the fact that Jay has, um, he still has David to trigger Tabernacle and be able to get enhancement back that way. Whatever other battle winners he still had. And then, like you said, yeah, you will remain to add chosen warriors, can maybe get something else from reserve. So he had lots of options. One other thing I just noticed is that Courtyard should have been protecting Tribal Elders. I believe Tribal Elders is a wilderness hero, and I think if John had the new version of it, it would actually have the identifier on there. So he might have thought about that. I'm not positive on that, but I suppose I could look that up here as well. Tribal Elders. Yep, yeah, the new one is Wilderness. So it would have been protected by Courtyard. I don't know if having Tribal Elders there gives John enough numbers to make a difference in that battle, but definitely had a possibility of doing it, because at certain points in the battle it did come down to who had the bigger numbers and who had to make the first move, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes in those chaining negates back and forth, it can almost become disadvantageous for you to be the person with initiative,
Right, yeah,
because you play your card, and now they get to answer with their interrupt the battle negate, or they're just card that only negates basically.
right,
But had they had the initiative and they got to play a negate, but there was nothing that, like philosophy, for example, negated enhancement, if they had that first initiative and that was the card they were kind of forced to play or something, a card like that. Like, what are you going to negate? It doesn't really help you, but when you get to make that be an answer because of the way the numbers line up.
yeah,
So sometimes it's strategic depending on who you're going into to battle with and at what point of the game you're at, to analyze and see, okay, I have a battle winner and a negate. Do I want to go in and be able to play my battle winner, or do I want to be able to go in and hit the negate? And
yeah,
how you want to try to line those up, which
yeah,
I guess in that point it's also always better to have your battle winners be tied to a negate if you can, for versatility.
right,
Like a negate an evil card, and then character may ban to or negate and then withdraw all evil characters, interrupt the battle, do something.
yeah, yeah. There's like
The more
definitely the different
versatility you can
tiers
pack
there.
in.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, just to negate, interrupt, and remove, and then there's philosophy, which is negate their this thing and then take out their next thing.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think yeah, that's definitely good advice, I think, for anyone kind of looking at different strategies. And something like Blood and Fire, that was the big thing of you just put out a big demon and have like 5 negates ready to take out as or to stop what they're trying to do to take out your defense. And that's what I think the goal was with this deck, is that you're going to be using characters like Nero to just kind of be a solo blocker against a solo rescuer, and they have to have something to take out your Nero. Like, numbers don't matter when Nero's protected, and so having just negate after negate is important to make sure that they don't have the enough to interrupt or negate Nero, and then also stop all your enhancements or get through your enhancements. And the offense is built in a similar way, I think, where it's just kind of utilizing the best enhancements in white kind of throughout all of the themes. You've got the Royal Parade, Inhabitants Driven Out, I think, also has an interrupt. Philosophy is obviously very good and works on both sides of the offense and defense in this deck particularly. So yeah, lots of very solid deck building choices, I guess, going into this deck, or I guess both of these decks. But I mean, this deck, it's pretty much the same game plan here.
Yeah. I I also think that going up against this, maybe not in the mirror match, because if you're playing this, the deck list feels like it's pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for you to add other things. But when you get into a game like this, to where like in the mid game you have your evil characters that you're going to block with, like John's out of his deck. His evil characters are on the board. He doesn't have, what is it, color guard that's protecting his evil
Mm-hmm.
characters. I don't think he has any way of protecting them when they're in territory. So if there was a way to include an answer for evil characters, and you could find yourself in an early position where you had the tempo advantage, which John did in this one, but if you could answer this style of deck by getting rid of those characters in that mid range to where they're trying to flip the script on the tempo,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get rid of their evil characters sitting in territory to where you're basically just walking in after some big play.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's susceptible to that type of thing, but generally their rescues are at that point in the game to where they're established, their defense is on the board, their
Yeah.
offense is almost unstoppable.
Yeah. Awesome
You
things
know,
AOC, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and we saw it in Game Five. Like, I guess Brian was thinking doing something like that because he pulled that AOC out,
Right.
and
Yep.
never
Never got
really
to
got a chance
execute.
to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
But
I think there are definitely answers to this deck. I just think that most of the decks that people are playing or have been playing are pretty vulnerable to things like Pot of Mana and Holy of Holies, and so it shifts the meta a little bit. But I don't know that this is. I think it's definitely way too early to say this is the best deck in the format. But it
the
is
Boogeyman
definitely,
deck.
yeah, it is definitely the boogeyman right now, at least, and uh, something that you have to be prepared for. Uh, so, all
It
right.
is. It
Oh,
is kind of cool. One other thing is the Pot of Mana making battle winners that are not okay. Well, this guy's making enhancement CBN, or this enhancement somehow gains CBN status, turning just standard battle winners back into battle winners because it's a one versus one
mm,
battle is kind of neat to see, and kind
yeah,
of harkens like what it used to be before you had to ban, and now
yeah,
it's like you have to get so much ad, I guess, card advantage from your rescues and your blocks because we have one territory class limiting how you can generate resources outside of battle. So you have to be more fruitful in battle. To see a deck like this, it kind of flips that
yeah,
narrative and is, John or Jay coming in at one point with, I think he won against Brian on one of those rescues with like Royal Parade or something early on, and it was just okay. How often do you see Royal Parade used as a straight up battle winner? Usually it's like, let me play something else, you negate that. Now I'm going to play Royal Parade. Kind of way John used it here at the end as the last thing.
right, yeah.
Um,
Just waiting
but
until
the
they have all the characters in that they're gonna ban or something like that, But
yeah,
yeah,
but to see standard battle winners be actual battle winners is kind of cool too.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think Pot of Mana definitely makes for some more interesting gameplay other than just, all right, I'm gonna play Resurrection, banning this guy that tosses, and then banning this guy that reserves your dude or bounces him or something. So yeah, it's
Although Pot of Mana toss though, uh, that's
that's
pretty cool.
yeah, yeah.
I
Pot of
you
Peace.
cut
Gonna
Yeah,
is
pot of
that
peace, peaceful pot.
there you go. There's the deck that you can build.
Smoking on. Never mind. You said family friendly. I'll stop. I'll see my way out.
All right, all right. Yeah, we should call it here before we get too reckless. But thanks everybody for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed these live tournament games. Hopefully we can get some more of these pretty soon. I probably at this point have hopefully live streamed the tournament we had in early February in Minnesota here, first weekend in February. Live streaming some games there is the plan at this point, but if it's not on the channel, then it didn't happen. You'll have to go back and check that out. And other than that, I will be going to Mr. Classic, be doing some live streaming there is also the plan, and that will be towards the beginning of March there, first weekend of March. So it's coming up in just a few short weeks here. So hope you guys are all ready for that and excited. You're going to be there, right?
I am.
All right.
Definitely am.
All right, good.
Anything in Knoxville, I'm there. Knoxville's almost like a second home at this point.
Fair enough. Yeah. They got it's a good venue, and a little bit closer for you than for some of us, but we'll be there for this one. So
yeah, you definitely got to be there. You got to bring that belt and lay it on the line.
It's like, sorry, I can't make it. I guess I got to keep the belt here. No.
You're like Roman Reigns in like actual wrestling now. What does he defend his belt like once a year?
I
don't keep up with it.
That reference goes right over my head.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Same dude's had the title for 3+ years. That's all I know.
Well, we'll see. I'll see what I can do, I guess.
You got to catch up to him.
Yeah, I gotta start practicing some scroots. I did play one game recently against Mark on Lackey here, but I definitely got to start doing a little more planning for that. I think Roots definitely makes the like Scrolls format pretty interesting. Like I think it diversifies the decks, the meta a little bit, or maybe a lot of it. So I think it's gonna be cool. So anyways, if you are not planning on going to Mr. Classic, then you should probably change those plans and plan to come instead, because it's going to be fun. We're going to have some pretty cool events, and even if you're not as familiar with scroll cards, I think you'll still have a lot of fun. It's good to catch up with everybody. If you're deciding between like that and Nationals, I guess maybe go to Nationals, but probably do both. But anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Is John leaving me here? I guess he's just dipping out. All right, well, that's where it is. We'll see you later. Thanks, John. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Catch you next time.
I'm back.
Yeah, I have to take a quick potty break there.
I did. I was trying to wait on you and you talking.
Fair enough.
So.
Well, I sort of ended it, but we could do another ending if you want to, and I can just splice it together.
I'm good. I'm okay with the disappearing Hendrix act.
All right. Well, maybe I'll just leave this in anyway, and people can
let people know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when they stop a sports event because somebody's got to go run, use the bathroom.
Yep. Figured that was probably the case, but I left the recording on just so we'd have the explanation or the little extra part. Maybe I'll release it as a short later on. YouTube shorts. That's the thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Hendrix has to use the bathroom.
Yep. Fair enough. I'm thankful that you didn't bring me with you. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that definitely wouldn't have been family friendly.
Nope. That would cross the line.
That would get you demonetized. For sure.
Yep.